snipped off some chives this afternoon. This harvest is from just 2 plants, so you can see they're already starting to flower. So I'm gonna clean them out and just take out some of the yellow leaves, but otherwise there's nothing much to clean. It can be just washed and chopped and frozen, and or it can be used in recipes that calls for fresh chives. Watch for a recipe coming up. Burst it and then produce seeds and then just fall all over the place, and it grows everywhere, more like a weed. So before it seeds or before it goes to flower, that's the best time to pick it and freeze or to preserve it and use it, because then it prevents you from weeding the garden. This is the flowers, and the flowers can be used in making flavored vinegars and oils that's used in salads and stuff like that. So these ones will be discarded. I have no use for them right now, but maybe in the future we can do a video on how to make flavored vinaigrettes. So let's take one out. You can see the roots are all tangled. Take one out and I'll show you how to snip this. At the very tip, just snip it off and just pull like that so the tissue comes out. Then we're going to remove any dead tips or yellow tips. And this is a very strong smelling onion type of stock, so your eyes will be burning just like when you cut onions. It's quite strong, so be prepared for that, and make sure if you want to wear a mask you can do that if it'll help at all. Cut it again like that. Check out this flower. Check the ends. Snip off the ends. It's actually stronger than green onions, and sometimes when it's in the ground I just cut the tops off and use them, and they will spread from the roots onwards. So these are going to all be frozen for winter use. Done. So it'll be washed, rinsed, chopped and frozen like so, and once the roots are nourished it stays fresh until you have the time to get to it. Oftentimes when the bud is closed and you have it sitting in water, they'll open up just like this. So I harvested it and it was sitting in some water until I got to it today. It's been here like this now for a few days. Here's what the flowers look like when they opened, and there's one right there that's closed. And if you don't know what to do when you cut them or read them, You can put them in a glass of water. You can see how pretty the ends look. They have a purplish hue to them, and they're a little bit, very much actually, like green onions. This is when I cut them above the root and clean them and chop them and freeze them. So here's what the chive roots look like. When you pull them out, you have too many of them, and you pull the chives out with the root. That's what the roots look like. And there's the chives, and there's a flower. So when you're cleaning it, you gotta remove the root and just take the papery lining, tissue lining out, and you're left with the stalk, like that. Once the root is removed, you're left with the stalk like that. The tissue lining has been removed and it's been rinsed out. The flower has been removed. So there's the tips. It's now ready to be washed and chopped. Good to soak them either in salt or vinegar. So I'm going to soak this for a while, and of course my food has been washed, so it's all good. I'm going to pick the flowers up like that and discard them. Apparently it's good to make salad dressings with vinegar in vinaigrettes. So I'm going to take all these out, soak them in salt, and take all the yellow leaves out. It's also good to go through them carefully because the thin blades of grass can be in between, and grass is normally tougher. So if you're adding these to your recipes and if you have grass in between, it's going to be a very chewy recipe to enjoy. So just go through them carefully and take all the thin blades of grass out, because the grass normally does grow in between. And when I weed, I pull out a lot of cracked grass, so be careful not to add that in your recipes. Here's some chickweed in there. Chickweed is edible, but you can eat it if you like. It's looking nice and lush and green, but I'm going to discard it right now. So that's one clump. It gets tangled together at the root sometimes when it's growing like that for a few years. It multiplies, and you find it in a clump, and you have to separate it out from the root. And if you need to replant it, you can replant each after separating them out. So here's a big clump that I picked up. It was growing in a place that I didn't want it to grow in, so So these are wild garlic chives. You can see it as a flatter leaf, but they similar in taste and flavor. And the regular chives, it has more like an onion type of a roundish blade. So that's the difference between the two. And this seems more like of a wild garlic chive. So let's see. I will be using both of these. Here's the discard. Not too much to clean. So I picked it at the right time, actually just before the flower, maybe about a week ago or two, would have been just nice. But they're still young and tender and looks really healthy, so that's a discard. Some of you may have uses for the young flowers, but I don't normally use them. But if you make a mistake and put it in with the young chives, it doesn't really matter because I don't think you'll be tasting them. They'll just dissolve with the chives in whatever dishes you're making. So we'll just press this down every once in a while and we hold it around to get the sand out. But we just had rains the last few days, so they look nice and clean. So I still just rinse them a few times. Depending on how much of sand there is. You can see the water is not cloudy or anything. Not that bad. So just rinse them out and shake the sand out and let them soak in salt for a little while, maybe about an hour or so before you rinse them and wash them, chop them, and save them for your soups, salads, and other dishes. So you can see the water is not very dirty. Hardly any sand at the bottom, so after the rain I guess it got washed out pretty good, but I'm going to give it a few more rinses before I chop and freeze. These are chopped and it's a size good for soups, salads, and any other recipes you like to prepare. Plastic bag all ready for the freezer.